What's going on? It's Ed here from Clicksgeek, and today I've got Ronny from Ronny's Unique Auto in Dirty Jersey. I used to live in Jersey, so I can say that. Ronny, welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, Ed? Thank you.
I'm doing well. So today we're going to talk about the junk car industry and your junk car business, auto repair business, all the things that you're doing. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, how you got started? Give me a little bit of context, a little background.
Okay, so first and foremost, the junk car business end of it is part-time for us. Currently at the moment it's part-time.
Okay.
We operate a auto repair and tire shop, and we're doing junk cars now. We've been doing junk cars for about 4 or 5 months lately. That's when we started it back up. Prior to that, we were doing junk cars back in around 2002. We started, and that went on for a few years. We stopped around I'd say around 2012, 2013, around that range. I can hardly ever make long stories short, so I'm going to try to do the best of it. It really is a long story how I got involved there. I got involved with junk vehicles, buying junk cars, and that process by accident. Okay, I got involved doing that from a friend who actually had an older truck, and he was looking to finance a newer truck. So at the time, he came to me, and he wanted to sell his truck to go purchase his newer truck. I was operating a auto detail business. Had no knowledge in the junk car industry whatsoever. Had no thrive in it. You know, I wasn't interested in doing an additional business, and I kind of don't even want to say that he talked me into it, because I hate to say that. I'm a person where I'm not a follower, for one. I don't let people out. I don't get persuaded. I let this guy talk me into basically helping him, and his method of me helping him, he said it was going to help me as well. And in the long run, here 20 years later, it has. So. And I'll explain to you how that happened. So I brought his truck from him, and after he persuaded me to buy it, he kept saying, he's like, Ronny, you could junk cars as well. You should buy this truck from me, because even on the side you can make money. And he's telling me what he's doing and what it's all about. I really had no interest in it. I've always brought and sold cars. I had a small car lot back then as well, and I looked at it as, all right, I'm gonna make the investment, but not so much as the junk cars. I'm gonna buy the truck from him, help him out. What I'm gonna do with the truck, I'm not really sure, to tell you honestly. I don't know if I'm gonna resell it, make some money on it, keep it for once I do decide to go into auto repair business, which I did shortly after, utilize it for that, or do what he recommended and start doing junk cars. So anyway, make a long story short, on the side, we started advertising, started doing junk cars on the side. The truck that he brought, he later, maybe a year later, things went bad for him in many different ways, and he got the truck repossessed. I wound up buying that truck from the bank. Okay, so now I had both trucks, but this was a newer truck. It was a flatbed, and we just went further into it. Started doing more junking, and this was a while back. At that time, we were buying cars for $25 to $50, back in 2002, 2003. I don't recall exactly where scrap was at dollar-wise, but it was low. I want to say it was around, $3, $4, $100, something like that. And I recall buying cars for $25, $50. In some situations, if they weren't local, the customers would pay us to come in and pick them up. But we had to drive 45 minutes to pick up a junk car. We weren't paying for it. They were paying us $50 to take it off their property. So scrap, started getting better and better. The amounts are going larger. It got to the point where, years later, it's up around $6, $7, $8 per hundred. Around 2008, I wound up buying a brand new truck, and at that time, scrap had hit an all-time high. It hit $15 per hundred. So we were, of course, more focused, and I didn't have the detail shop at that time. By then, I had opened up an auto repair shop. I was doing auto repair, started getting into tires at that point. And we were also doing some towing. We were doing a little bit of motor club, dealer tows, private tows. But when scrap hit 1,500, that changed the whole ball game up. So I kind of made a mistake at that point. I had the truck that I brought from the gentleman that had the vehicle that got repossessed. I had that truck. I had the brand new truck that I brought. I decided to utilize the new truck to do strictly junk cars.
Okay.
I stopped doing motor clubs. I stopped doing dealer tows. I stopped doing private tows. 1,500, we want the junk. And I'll tell you the reason why. Back then, we're talking about 2008. Okay, we would do 30 mile radius, 45-minute drive. Okay, we were doing dealer tows for $65, $75 a car. What did that mean? That meant a flatbed, take 2 cars, you get $150 for taking that trip. Okay, but a 45-minute truck in a flatbed, not being able to take the parkway, taking some back roads, on average, you'd be an hour to hour and 20 minutes one way. So let's just round that out. Let's just say a 3-hour trip, right? Back and forth, load and unload time. And the 3-hour trip, we made $150 to tow 2 vehicles. As scrap with junking cars, we would buy a vehicle for $200, and that vehicle was doing $500 in the yard. So we're making $300 profit in less time, staying local. And that's just the base. We made $300 on that trip. We still had catalytic converters. We still had aluminum wheels. We still had the batteries. We still had processing. So those extra items. And back then, the way I was doing it was catalytic converters back then was not what they are today, but they were still money. So I would set aside every vehicle that we junked that had aluminum wheels, that had catalytic converters and the battery. Those 3 items would come off of the vehicles. We'd stack them away. I would turn those in once a month. Every month, whatever catalytic converters, rims, batteries, even sometimes steel wheels, whatever we would turn in, that money would go towards overhead. There were times where my overhead was only just the truck and the insurance. There was times when I had the shop and I had expense of the building and stuff like that. But every month, turning those items in, that would automatically at least pay for the truck payment. At the time I had the truck that was financed, it would pay for the insurance, and then some left over. But the profits every time that we turned those vehicles over, we were picking up vehicles, cutting the cats off, taking the aluminum wheels off, and taking them right to the yard. That profit would run anywhere between 100 to 400. We're talking instant profit, and it could be as little as a 20-minute tow that we did to acquire that junk vehicle up to, even taking an hour trip. But still in all, like I said, we were taking an hour and 20-minute trip prior to make $150, and an hour and 20 minutes back. Here we're most of the time taking less than an hour trip, and we're making $200, $300, $400, instant, not including the items that we would take off and turn in once a month. So that's how I got into the business. And scrap it hit 1,500 back in 2007 and 2008, around that range. Mm-hmm. I also watched it crash like the stock market. I watched it go down to $2.50 per 100. And that's why I say I made a mistake. The mistake that I made back then was I focused strictly on scrap. I had 2 trucks, one that I decided to let sit, the new one I put on the road, dealing with strictly scrap. And I could have done things a little bit differently. At that point, I felt that maybe I should have had the older truck doing strictly scrap, the brand new truck I should have kept on the road, dealing with motor clubs, staying with the, some accounts that I had acquired, and took it off. So then when scrap went down, I still had, the other study work, which is, it wasn't the gravy, but it was enough to, to stay afloat. When it went down $2.50, I recall, and then I watched it climb back up $3 per 100, $4 per 100. I think it hit as high as maybe $5. At that time, I still had the auto repair shop, and I was focusing more on that. So I wound up selling the truck and getting out, stopping junk cars altogether. And which brings it back to, today. Now, catalytic converters, everything sort of took a different turn. Instead of scrap being high and catalytic converters being, medium, it took a turn. Now we're seeing catalytic converters out of control. Not as much as they were a year, 2 years ago. 2 years ago, catalytic converter pricing was through the roof. It came down a good amount, but it's still decent right now. Mm-hmm. So currently, brings us to the point of sort of why we started to. I've always said for the last 3 years. I mean, I'm a procrastinator sometimes. 3 years, maybe even 4. I'm going to start doing junk cars again. Car buying, should I say? We advertise, we buy all cars, not just junk cars. But I've been saying it for a while, and decided to jump back on board, doing it part-time, but we're looking to take it a little bit further and possibly even go full-time.
Very cool. Okay, so with current day, how many trucks do you have on the junk car side of things?
Currently, right now, we have 2 trucks.
Okay.
We're going to be adding on. We're putting together another one, and hopefully, we'll be utilizing all 3 of those trucks, very shortly.
Very cool. Okay, and approximately how many cars do you shoot for on a daily basis?
It's not consistent. At the moment, it's not. So we can pick up, 4 or 5 one day, and the following day, pick up 2. The day after that, pick up 3, and the day after that, none. Or 2 days prior, nothing, and then, 4. So it's not consistent at the moment, and but we're looking to generate it to be more consistent. And again, like I said, it's part-time right now, so we're looking at other avenues to pull in some more cars. What would I like? I would like to be picking up 10 a day.
10 a day? Okay.
So with many other people. But that's what we're aiming for right now.
Very cool. Okay. So I just want to touch on something you brought up a moment ago when you were talking about your earlier start in the junk car business. Walk me through your process. So once you buy the car, walk me through what you're stripping off, what you're taking to the yard, and then like what you strip off, where do you put it? Where do you house it so it doesn't walk off the job?
Okay, so the way we're doing it today, we buy all cars, good cars, bad cars, parts cars. We're doing it a little bit different than what we used to do years ago. We're buying the vehicles now. The good cars, we're fortunate to have dealer's license as well.
Okay.
So if we buy a vehicle and it's a good car, then we will most likely wholesale that vehicle out. Sell it whole to another car dealer. The junk vehicles that we're buying, first and foremost, what comes off is catalytic converters, batteries. Sometimes we're taking aluminum wheels off. Sometimes we're leaving them on. Now, in the near future, we're probably going to be taking all of the aluminum wheels off.
Okay.
Tires, being that we operate a full-time auto repair and tire shop, one of the main things that we're looking for now is tires. Since the pandemic, a lot of things have changed, and I don't have the full staff at my auto repair shop like I used to. And when I did, I used to go out and obtain the tires. Now I don't have the time to do that. So tires is one of the first things we're looking at when they come in. I'm loving the vehicle if it comes in with a set of new tires, tires that customer put on 6 months ago or 3 months ago. So with that being said, the tires, of course, we have, storage units where we house the tires. The catalytic converters, we're taking the catalytic converters off, processing the cats. We store those, and we usually turn those in anywhere from every 2 weeks to every month. Now the market's been fluctuating up and down. So, when it does that, we may turn them in every 2 weeks. The batteries, we have another source that purchases the batteries from us. We generally keep a lot of the good batteries for our own vehicles. I would say, and that's about it. Now, what I mean by we're doing things a little bit differently now is the fact that the parts industry, if you have the facility to store the vehicles, it is definitely a plus to decide to part some vehicles out, and especially depending on the car. So we'll advertise what we like to do sometimes, depending on what type of vehicle it is. I'll give it anywhere from 3 to 4 days up to 2 weeks, and I'll post the vehicle for parts and, decide to part the vehicle out. Sometimes we do it for many different reasons. Sometimes we'll do it because of the fact that, if we paid high on the vehicle, more than we wanted to pay. Sometimes we'll do it for, if it's a popular vehicle. Nowadays everybody's hot on the on Hondas, Honda Civics, Honda Accords, stuff like that. Other vehicles, I'd say, if it's a hard to find vehicle or hard to find part. So there's more than one area to make money in the junk car business than just, the weight of the vehicle, the catalytic converters, the rims. But then again, this is, you have to have a place where you can part them out. Some people do junk cars, they work right out of their houses. So that's really not an option. You can't, depending on where you live or what type of house, if it's back in the woods, fine and dandy. But, if you live in a nice development, you can't have can't be parking a car out in your driveway on the side of the house. Although I've seen some people do it. I've seen some people, they'll buy a cover and they'll keep it covered up, and, it's not an eyesore to the community. So, but that is a big plus, being able to park the vehicles out, because then, especially if you have a certain type of vehicle that's a high demand, for parts, or, just common vehicle, you can make a lot more money. We'll take a car, just to give you an example, we may buy a car for $500. And, by the time depending on your area and your junkyard, the junkyard can give you, just for the car itself, after you take your your rims, your batteries out, they may give you $400, but you may have $600 worth of cats on that vehicle. So now that vehicle you paid for $1,000, you're automatically getting that vehicle you paid, if you paid $500 for it, you're getting $400 from the junkyard, you're getting $600 in cats, you're going to double your money, you're going to make $1,000. But depending on the vehicle, if you can park that vehicle out, you have an option of making anywhere from another $200 to another $1,000 on that vehicle, depending on the type of vehicle it is, depending on what's good on it. It could be a car where the trans went bad, but the motor's good, and it's got a good turbo motor or VTEC motor, you can sell that. Doors, front end, especially if it's a newer vehicle. You go to a salvage yard, you buy a front nose clip on an older vehicle, will run you $500, and I'm talking about an old car. You buy a nose for, a newer vehicle, 2015, it's going to run you $1,500 to $2,000. So a nose that's $2,000 in the junkyard, you can easily sell for $1,000, posting it online, half of what the junkyard wants.
Where you post them, into like Facebook groups or places like that?
Facebook, Craigslist, believe it or not, is still, Craigslist isn't what it used to be, but it's still existing. It still works sometimes for some things. Okay. But I think it's fair to say Facebook is kind of put a hurting on Craigslist and kind of took over it a little bit. But yes, for the most part, Facebook is pretty much number one. There's so many groups, marketplace on Facebook. So you have a huge audience, and nowadays everyone is on social media. So yes, on Facebook, and you learn a lot of things from different people. I never say that I know it all, or I can't learn. I have young kids, and they teach me some things.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised, but you learn a lot from a lot of people. And I have my youngest son is 20 years old. And I'm sitting here to this day still teaching him this, things in the business, with this business and the auto repair business, the junk car as well. He's involved with it as well. He's taught me just recently. We're going back maybe 3 weeks ago about what is it? Snapchat. We all know about TikTok. I think Snapchat is one that they say is for the younger generation. He posts some of the stuff. And he'll post something on Snapchat, especially the younger generation. If it's a Honda, if it's a Volkswagen, he'll stick it on Snapchat. And next he's telling me, an hour later, Dad, I got somebody, that wants to buy this or wants to buy. I'm like, where'd you put it? You put it on Facebook? I'll put it on Snapchat. And it goes, social media.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's so many different avenues. Facebook is one of the main ones.
Cool. So I've got my list of questions here, but you keep bringing up things that are making my brain turn. So I want to go off a little bit here. Talk to me about when you have a junk car rolling through. We all know in your mind you got a profit number associated with it. Like no matter what, on your averages, what do you associate profit wise or gross profit wise to a new car that a new junk car that you're bringing in? Like what's the value you assign to doing that transaction, even though we know it's all going to average out and excursion is going to be different than a Grand Marquis? What's it look like in your brain?
Well, Ed, I tell you, it's a weird question. Back years ago when we were doing it, what I used to do and what I always would say is we would need to make on a junk vehicle, whatever distance we go to get that vehicle, whatever that tow would be, we would have to at least make that
Okay.
profit-wise. So, and we generally pay, a lot of money for vehicles, sometimes to make sure we close the deal. We'll pay whatever we have to. But what I mean by that is, and this is going back years ago, if we would, in-town tolls back then were like $50. Now, price of gas, price of insurance, everything, the pandemic, prices have increased. If years ago, in-town tolls was $50, nowadays, in-town tolls are damn near $100. And people are, oh, are you crazy? Are you kidding me? Oh, go get a tow truck and go get this high insurance and do this, and you'll see why it is this price. But if an out-of-town tow would cost you $85, just like if a taxi costs you $85 to go a certain distance. If we went that same distance, if we sent a truck out to go that same distance, we would want to make at least that. If it was going to be $100 to tow Mrs. Jones' car from this location to this location, and that's the same distance we went for a junk car, we don't want to make $75, profit on that car, when if we would have did the tow, it would have been, $100. So that's how we used to base it going back then.
Okay.
Now it's a little bit different. And it's also different according to if you're owner operated, if you're someone who has a lot of things to take play in this. If you have a vehicle that you own, if you have a vehicle that you're financing, so you have payments on. There's so many people out here doing junk cars, and everyone's doing it different. Some companies, some people chose to go the truck and trailer route. Some chose to get a dollar. I've seen some that they'll set up their jobs and they'll go to U-Haul and rent a trailer and use their truck. They don't have a trailer, or go to U-Haul and rent a truck and the dolly or the truck and the trailer from U-Haul and go out and pick up the vehicles. I've seen so many different situations, but now, especially with catalytic converters to where it's at, we started off months ago at the point where we decided to buy the vehicles and we wanted to make a profit on just the vehicle itself. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So let's just say your local yard's paying $10 per 100. Okay, so if a vehicle weighs say 4,000 pounds, you're getting $400 for that vehicle. So we would want to pay $300 for that vehicle.
Okay.
By paying $300 for that vehicle, there's $100 on the table right there, profit that you're going to make. So that's no matter if the car's got an original cat, or if it doesn't have a cat at all, or if it has an aftermarket. So basically what I'm getting at, as long as that distance wasn't crazy, for $100 profit, okay, we want to go, a 30-minute, 40-minute tops drive. So it doesn't matter if I look at it as, and I used to explain to my drivers and so forth, that say you don't want to rely on catalytic converters. And I've seen a lot of places that would do this. Because if it's the other way around, let's just say the car's going to bring 400 in the yard, and it's got two catalytic converters, and the catalytic converters are $300 each. So that's $600 in catalytic converters, right? So you say, okay, I'm going to get $1,000 for this car. I'll pay 700 for the car. Now you go pick up the car, you send a driver, you send a tow truck, and you get it back, and it's got either aftermarket cats or no cats, or it's got cats and you cut them off and they're empty, which happens. So now you're upside down. You pay 700 and it goes in the yard and you get 400 and you're out 300. So I would always say, do not rely on the catalytic converters. But if you pay 300, it doesn't matter. You still make a profit. You didn't make the big sum, but you made $100 profit. So that's one good way to look at it. Nowadays, honestly, we went the other way. We flipped that around. And we are kind of gearing towards, and some people say, you know, oh, you're crazy for this and you're breaking your own rule. But I'll tell you the reason why. In the beginning, no, don't break that rule. Try to make it where you're always going to make a profit. Don't rely on the other items, the catalytic converters or anything else. Try to make a profit in the beginning, some type of profit, whether it's $50, $100, $200. But as you start going and you build up a bankroll to continue buying, if you have money, it's a whole different ballgame. Later, you can go about it differently, which is the other way I just suggested, the way that we weren't going to do it. And you can pay $700 and knowing that, you know, okay, this car is supposed to have 2 cats. They're supposed to be. And the other thing is, you should know your cats. You should know the price of your cats. You should know what cats are, you know, what you're going to get for cats for specific vehicles, roughly around somewhere in the ballpark figure. If you pay $700 for a vehicle, you know you're going to turn that car in for $400 to the yard. Now you're down $300. So if it happens that the cats wind up being empty, you know, you look underneath, you see their original, but in the case where, you know, you take them off, they're gutted out, they're empty or whatever, and now you're in a loss for $300. Your winnings should outweigh your losings. So you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you should win a lot more than you lose. So if you lose $300, what about the times where, okay, this vehicle you gain $500 profit, this vehicle you gain $200, this vehicle you gain $700. So, you know, if you win 11 times and you lose 2, you're still winning in the long run.
Yep.
Okay, so that's kind of how I look at it now. A little bit different perspective, but you don't want to go too high. You know, you don't want to, you know, if a car, if you're going to get 1,000 total, if it has the correct cats that are original and full, you don't want to pay $900 and keep doing that every single time, you know, just to make the 100. You want to make as much money as possible, but then also you got to remember it's going to cost you. If you're paying top dollar, you're paying $700 for a vehicle that you're going to wind up, you know, making a $1,000 for. You unless you're turning the cats in every day or every week, you know, you're going to be sitting on. You're turning that car in for 400. You're out 300. You're going to be sitting on that 300. Now, if you buy, say, 10 cars a week, like we would like to get, that's 300 times 10. So now that's $3,000 per day that you're sitting on until you turn those cats in. You know, so you do have to have, you know, backing money to back you to continue buying.
Yep, absolutely. I think a lot of people don't realize that piece.
Yeah.
You have a float in there. You got, you know, you want to break even on your metal, and then you get these big infusions of cash from your catalytics, your converters, your batteries, whatever you're going to sell. But you got to manage your cash flow from now till then in order to make it to that point, or you're going to go flop.
That's why in the beginning, I recommend, you know, for someone starting out in the beginning, don't rely on the cats, don't rely on it, all the extra stuff. Try to make some type of profit initially. You know, buy that vehicle where you can get some type of profit, turning it in, whether it has a cat. Look at it as like I looked at it years ago. All that extra stuff is gravy. That catalytic converter, the batteries, the aluminum wheels, that's gravy. I was able to, when we started, I was able to just toss that stuff aside in the back of the shop, put it in a bin, and don't touch it. Don't look at it end of the month, you know, or even 2 months, you know, whenever. Just, you know, you turn it in then. You know, scrap was at an all-time high at that point, so we could do that. And it was, you know, it was to the point where we really didn't need that. If we weren't cutting, there was some other, you know, guys local to us that they weren't cutting cats out. You know, they were turning the whole cars in because they're still, you know, 1,500. You know, a van did 650, 700. You know, an average car did 4. But back then we were buying cars on average between 100 and 300 bucks. So you put that in the middle, at $200 a car, and you're getting 400 to 500 for that same vehicle that you're buying. So, and that was, then we were doing on average 5 a day.
Got it.
So good times.
Yeah. So to touch on the cash flow management piece again. So someone's leaving the shop with cash in hand each day. How do you manage the process if it's not you doing it, if it's an employee doing it? How do you manage the process of giving them a wad of cash so that they can go out and do their route, do their pickups, and making sure that the customer actually got the agreed upon amount, and that what's owed to you comes back to manage that piece of cash in the business?
Okay, so majority of this falls back into a couple things. Trust situation between you and whoever you employ, hire to go out and do, to pick up the vehicles, to do the buying. Different people, different companies do it differently. Some will go out and do the purchasing themselves and obtain the title, and then they'll send the driver out to pick up the vehicles. But if you don't, I mean, it's good to just know that you can trust the person that you have that's in your truck and trailer or in your tow truck, to a certain extent. We have forms that we have our customers fill out, and the forms, whether there's a title or there's no title, the form, they have to fill out their information. We get a copy of their driver's license, insurance or registration to match. And on that form, there's an amount that the driver can fill everything out on the form, but the customer has to sign. But there is a section on the form where it says, it actually says cash or check, but we pay everything cash.
Got it.
So, and then next to that amount, there's an amount that they have to put in that the vehicle, that they pay for the vehicle. But majority of the time, those negotiations are handled prior to picking the vehicles up.
Got it.
There are, I want to say maybe 20%, 25% of the time that there's either renegotiation after our driver gets there, or that price is not, agreed upon or put out there until the driver gets out there and sees the vehicle. Because there's a lot of times where customers just says, I don't know what I want to get for the vehicle. Make me an offer. And then there's some where that we love these, the ones that the customer will say, because we asked the question, during the phone interview section, what are you looking to get for this vehicle, man? I don't know. I don't care. I just want it out of here. Bingo. Yeah. When you get those and I just want it out of here. I just want it out of my driveway. I just want my space. They don't really care about what they care more so about is getting their space, is cleaning up their property, not the dollar figure. There's a lot of junkyards that they get cars for free. People calling them up. I got a junk vehicle. Can you pick it up? What do you charge to pick it up? Because they're still stuck on back in the day's time. Back in the day, yeah, you used to have to pay a junkyard to come get them. So with that being said, we utilize everything with the forms, and 75-80% of the times, all of that is is taken care of before we send our drivers out.
Got it.
If you have a driver that you can trust, then it works out a lot better doing that.
Okay.
Now you can give a driver, and again, everyone does it differently. Some people give the driver the cash per vehicle. If we operate everything out of one location, so it's a little bit different. But I know of people that I know some people that do this out of their home and they sit at home and they handle the calls. They never go out in the truck. They have someone else going out and do the work. And then there's guys that do everything. They're in the truck. They answer the phones in the truck. So everybody's situation is different. But if you have a driver, some guys will give a driver, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 for the day, and he goes out and does his thing, and he comes back and he brings that money back to the office or to whoever's in charge. And some people do it per car. It's like dispatching the driver out every time you get that call. Sometimes it's a little harder that way because there's times where, especially if you get a good amount of calls, your driver's on the road. I mean, we'll go out as far as an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and 40 minutes from our office to pick up cars. So if a driver's on the road, if he's got the cash on him, it benefits a little bit more because he doesn't have to. I can send the driver out, let's say an hour and 15 minutes away, and then I get another call and I successfully close that deal, and that is maybe 45 minutes away, but it's en route to that driver coming back, to the to our shop. So if he didn't have the cash on him, now he'd have to come all the way back, pick up cash, now go 45 minutes out to in turn come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say, the driver that we have currently is someone that we can trust. I can send him out with $5,000 cash and know that he's going to do the right thing. He's not going to go out and again, we're in 2022. Okay. The era that we are in. I used to say my motto was, it's hard to get good help. Well, during this pandemic, when they were getting the stimulus that they were getting, unemployment was paying what they were paying, it was hard to get help in general, let alone good help. So to find someone trustworthy is a needle in a haystack. Trustworthy, honest, loyal, it's a needle in a haystack. So, when you have someone like that, then it works out better because you can trust that they're going to go out there. They're going to you got to have a lot of trust. You got to have trust that they're not going to try to backstab you. And if they go out, and I'll give you an example, I see this happen all the time. They may get to a house where a person said, I don't care what I want. I just want out of here. And they get there and they start talking to the customer. And the customer says, you know what? I don't even want anything. I'm glad you're here. You can just take it. Well, that driver, there's many different ways that driver could be sneaky and scammy. He can tow it somewhere and say it was gone. He didn't pick it up. He can cancel. He can call his buddy that he knows how to truck and trailer, says, let's come get this car. We're going to get like $800 between the cat and the car. We'll split it. There's many different avenues that someone who is disloyal and untrustworthy that, there's many ways that this could go.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I've seen this happen too many times. I have an issue with trusting people, and it's kind of a good thing because, my motto is, I don't trust anyone until they, trust is earned. And as quick as you earn it, you can lose it faster. But when someone, from the door, I don't trust anyone. I meet someone, I have zero trust. What you do with that is up to you. You can bring that trust level up, you can bring it down. So, with that being said, the driver we have currently is someone that we can trust. We do trust. If you can't trust, or someone's at that zero level, they have not earned their trust yet, work your way up. But definitely stay on top of things. Stay on top. Keep that communication with the customer. You can contact them back. Mrs. Jones, how was the purchase? How'd everything go? Did my guys take care of you? Okay. Were you satisfied with the offer? And Mrs. Jones is going to say, yes or no, or, you can check up on you, especially if you have a new driver.
Mm-hmm.
Check up on them. Did they pay you cash? You can always call and ask these questions. Or you can request that, send a driver out and request that every customer has to sign. And that's another thing. They have to sign next to the signature section. They have to sign that. You can request that they have to sign to the amount that you gave them. And you can also tell your drivers, listen, the customer has to fill this complete form out. Okay. So everything's got to be in the customer. So if it comes back and it's not that customer signature, you know what I mean? But it gets to a bad situation when you have you're dealing with someone you can't trust. So
okay.
Trust is a big factor nowadays, especially in employees and stuff like that.
For sure. Tell me, what's the number one thing you love about the industry, the junk car business?
One thing I love about it, it's three things I'm going to tell you. Three things I love about it. One, I love the flexibility schedule, being able to, choose somewhat being able to choose when you want to work, because you can't just be laid back and, you get a call at 10 a.m. and you decide to go get it at 2 p.m. because 80% chance you might lose that job, but you get a call at 10 a.m. you can schedule it, for 12, 11. The flexibility is one thing I like. The pay I like now that we're at, we're getting decent prices. And last, I would have to say, just that it's dealing with cars. Cars has been something, automobiles I've been into since a kid. I've been into automobiles since I can remember, when it all started maybe around 5, 6 years old. My parents buying me Radio Shack remote control cars. So, when you're doing something that you like, it's a plus.
Cool.
I guess that would have to be the things that I like about this industry.
Okay. So what would be your words of advice to someone new getting into this space?
Someone new getting into this business would be to do your homework, do your research, take your time, be careful with the buying, like we spoke about, how to price the vehicles, be consistent, and that's pretty much it. The research is definitely, something that you want to do. Lots and lots of research. I always say you can follow and you can listen to someone and take advice from someone who is or has been successful. Okay, don't listen to the guy that is sitting on the park bench that says to you, yeah, I used to have this, I used to have that, I used to operate a big towing company, I had 15 trucks and this and that, but now he's on the park bench and he's drinking whiskey and and he's homeless. He's going to tell you his stories, but follow the advice of someone who has maintained, who has something to show for it, and I look at things that way. Listen to the one who has proved himself already.
Got it. I like it. Okay. And down to the final 4 questions. What is your what's the favorite book you've read?
The favorite book, my most favorite book, is a book that I recently read about within the last few months. And that book was a book that was given to us from a company that we just chose to build a mobile app for our main business, our auto repair and tire business. And although I'm not a book reader, I will say that this book gave a lot of insight on business, surviving business through the pandemic, obtaining customers, gaining more customers, satisfying customers. Just, it was so much information. And again, this is a company that built our mobile app, but I went back and forth with the CEO of this company for about a year, watching them grow, watching them add on other services and so forth. And when he sent me this book, because this book normally goes out to his clients that chose to get a mobile app designed and built, after they sign on with his company, he sends this book out. He wound up sending me a copy of the book as I was still debating on hiring him for designing a mobile app. And I'm glad he did, because he sent the book out to me and I started to read the book on my downtime, which is anywhere from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. I would read a little bit every night. And I got a quarter way through the book and he was hired. He was hired. And I'll tell you what that the name of the book was. And again, I'm not much of a book reader. That was The Ultimate 5 Steps of Auto Repair Marketing Guide, published by Jeremy Glasgow.
Cool.
So that book, again, I loved it. It had to do with business, bettering business, promoting business, advertising business, and helping to get through the pandemic. So I loved what he had in the book, and all his his help, and it's kind of like a business coach, so to speak.
Cool.
So, and I wind up hiring him. He built our mobile app. I love it. Absolutely love the app. Customers love it. So that was great. And that I have to say was the best book I have read. I'm not so much a book person. Yeah, that's okay. Movies is a different thing. Eh?
Yeah. Nice.
I was reading a little bit lazy with that book. To tell you the truth, when I got it, I started reading. I called him up. I said, Jeremy, is there an audio version?
I hear you, man. I like audio. I like video better. I just consume it. I can retain it much better than reading.
Exactly.
So,
yep.
I hear you. What advice would you give your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now about business and life? What would you tell your 20-year-old self to do or watch out for or whatnot?
Oh man, where did you say that? Okay, so again, I can hardly make long versions short. I'm gonna try again. What would I give my 20-year-old self advice? So I have 3 sons. Okay, my youngest is 20 years old. Out of my 3 boys, he is the only one that is he is a second version of me. Okay, completely 100%. He's into everything that I was ever into and still am into. Okay, from the age of 5, 6 years old, like I said, to from remote control cars, I got involved with dirt bikes, ATV quads at the age of 13. And I think I had my first vehicle at 15 or 16. When here in New Jersey, we get licensed at 17. I had about 4 vehicles before I got my license. So my son is the same way. My 20-year-old, he had his first motorcycle at the age of 4, his first vehicle at the age of 16. He likes the same things that I like, and he is now here currently running the business with me as well. So it's funny that you say that. What would I give my 20-year-old version of me? What advice? Is the same exact advice that I'm actually giving him to this day, every day. And it's turning out great. He's great in the business. He's learning more and more now in the junk car end of the business. As far as with auto repair, the auto repair shop, he runs that with me as well. And he's been involved with that since he's came out of IT tech school. For about the last year, he's been running the auto repair business. But again, like I said, with the junk car end of it, we've only been doing that for the last few months, getting back into that. So he's learning that as well. The advice that I would give would be, for one, definitely take your time. Take your time. Take a lot in. Knowledge is key. You always want to, knowledge to me is more valuable than money, than cash. I was fortunate to get a lot of knowledge growing up in this business with a few business owners that I worked for that showed me, I recall at the age of 18, I believe, I worked for one guy who kind of had the same establishment that I'm running now. This guy did a little bit of towing. He had a body shop. He had a dealer's license. He did some auto repair. And it was a very, very small operation. It was the owner who he was not hands-on at all. He was there every day, all day, but he didn't do any work. He wound up buying the business from the guy that he brought the business from was an old guy named George. George did the body work. George did some of the auto repairs. When they brought me in, they hired me as a helper. I would help George in the body shop with the auto repairs. I would do the detailing for the cars, the body shop cars that were finished and went out to customers. I would also do the detailing for the cars that the owner brought from the auction and put on his used car lot. Then it got to the point where he showed me how to operate the tow truck. That was the first time I did, operate a flatbed. He taught me that. He also taught me some of the sales and the business with the with his used car lot end of it. I had already known auto body because I took auto body in school, in vocational school. So that's how I was able to help out, you know, the older guy, George, in the body shop end of it. I was being in the detailing field. So I fit in perfectly there. Now, I remember the owner, his name was Doug. At that time, Doug used to told me a couple of times, he says, Ronny, you know, you're a great kid. I like your work. He says, I wish I could pay you more, but I can't afford to pay you more, but I could do something a little bit better for you. He says, to compensate where you're worth more money, I can't pay you more money. He says, I'll let you utilize the shop, utilize the tow truck. He says, why don't you, whenever you decide, you don't have to, this is completely up to you. He says, take one of your paychecks or take 2 paychecks. He says, you can go to the auction with me, which you already do, but he says, you can go to the auction with me. And if you see a car you want to buy, you can buy it. He used to buy, he used to do rebuildables. So he would buy light wrecks, being that he had a body shop, bring them back, you know, tow them back, fix them, put them on the lot for sale. He would also buy, you know, regular cars that weren't wrecked. I would do the detailing. He put them on the lot and sell them. He says, you could buy a wreck. You could buy a car that, you know, just a trade-in. You know, if it needs a paint job, we got the body shop. I have the spray booth. He says, you can use anything in the shop after hours on your own time. He says, after 5, you use the shop. On the weekends, at that point, I had the key to the shop. He says, if you see something on the side of the road, you know, you want to buy a car yourself, come get the tow truck, tow it in. You can use the shop. You can use the truck. You can fix that car. You can take it home and sell it yourself, or you can sell it on my car lot. So he gave me permission to use the business on my time, you know, buy something off his dealer license, sell it off his dealer license, utilize the shop, use the tow truck. And he recommended that I do it. He says, because you see what I'm doing. There was times that half the week I would go to the auction with him. Two times maybe. He would go about 4 or 5. I would go to the auction with him. I would help transport the cars back. When he taught me how to use the tow truck, I would do towing. You know, I did a little bit of everything there. So he says, you see what I paid for this car. You see what it's on the lot for. And I got a deposit on it. It's going to sell. I oversaw the whole operations of the business. So, you know, by him giving me that opportunity, which no one else at any job where I worked gave me that much opportunity and the ability to do that. And I took that advice and I started doing it. And that's what actually started all of this off. And again, at that time, I was either 17 or 18 years old. Well, I opened up my own detail shop maybe 2 years later. And then years down the line, I wind up, you know, just growing and I find myself now another George, you know, doing the same exactly. Only he didn't do junk cars back then, but you know, we going through school, you know, auto body. I do body work myself. You know, kind of, you know, I kind of see him in myself, you know, and that was I just, you know, sat back, took the knowledge in, listened to what he said, and you know, that was kind of like hands-on coaching at that situation. So, you know, it's a good true story, and I never forget that experience. So, you know, I can't say I would be here still today if it wasn't for him. Maybe so, but you know, I learned a lot then. And like I said, working for someone, you don't always get that opportunity. You know, working for someone, you're there to do your job, and that's it. You know, you get paid for doing your job. So, you know, it's a difference when someone gives you the opportunity to make more out of yourself and shows you and, you know, guides you. You get that, and, you know, kids get that. If they work for somewhere, they work with their parents in their parents' business, you know, yeah, they're going to, you know, teach their kid, but they're not going to teach the average, you know, employee most of the time.
Right.
You know? And some employees are a little smart, so they just watch and observe and listen and learn anyway. And, you know, a year later, you find out, Joe's down the street, he's opened up his own mechanic shop. You know, that does happen.
No,
but,
sure.
You know, at such a young age, you know, I learned a lot, you know, towing, how to do car sales, the paperwork. I learned all that at a young age, because I was given the opportunity to.
That's awesome. It's awesome to see how people can shape other people's lives with a little bit of guidance. It's nice to see. So I think you answered my last question, but I'll say it anyway. What was the best piece of advice you got, and who gave it to you?
So the best piece of advice, I've been waiting for a good question. I think this is really a good one here. The best piece of advice that I was given came from an older gentleman who was again, and this was not the person I was just speaking about. That was an employee. This gentleman here is a old-time friend, entrepreneur, landlord of mine, mentor. His name was Jerry Stevens, and may he rest in peace. This gentleman taught me a lot, and the advice that he gave me, and I gotta explain this into detail too. The advice that he gave me was to, quote unquote, shut the hell up and listen. Okay, he's an older gentleman, very funny older gentleman. If you ever met him and you ever had dealings with him, he was like he was like an older Kevin Hart, because whatever he said, he'd have you cracking up laughing. So he would always tell me and a couple other business associates of mine that were real close to him that slang: shut up and listen. Just shut up and listen. And what he meant by that was to pay attention and listen to what someone's saying. This guy was, became a real good friend and almost like a family member. And it's the best way to describe it. He owned businesses as well. He owned a very lucrative and popular bail bonds business out in the next county over from where we're at. He also owned a car lot. He did towing as well. And when I had one of my car lots, he was actually my landlord he owned the property. He was into real estate as well. So he would always, I've watched him and witnessed him many times do things such as close business deals, close real estate deals. A couple times he, helped me close deals. I watched him represent people in court as if he was an attorney. And he would always say to someone that, that he wanted to get some knowledge into, shut up and listen. But he would come back with the reason why he would say these things. So, he would say, you learn a lot from a person by just listening to them. Let them speak, let them talk. And you can learn, if within a matter anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour, a lot about a person. If they are a BSer, if what they're saying makes sense, if they're possibly lying, if they know what they're talking about, or just learn stuff in general. And it was funny how he would do it, because he would just let a person talk, and he was against interrupting or changing a topic. He would just let someone talk. And he said to me a couple of times, he's like, Ronnie, you'll learn a lot from just letting someone talk. He said, someone sometimes will tell you their whole life in one conversation of you just allowing them to talk to you. They'll tell you things that they shouldn't tell you. They'll tell you things that you shouldn't know. They'll get too personal. And again, he was a very popular bail bondsman in this area. He did a lot of things that other bail bonds would not do. He would take people out with no money and trust them. He would do many different things. But again, I worked with him in his bail bonds business. I would watch him sometimes listen to someone tell a story, and they would be in his office, and like it would be a girl wanting to get her boyfriend out, and he would just let her talk to the point where after she was done and she walked out that office, he would recite what she said and said, how much you want to bet she's lying? How much you want to bet that this one is not this or that's not that? And everything he would say would be, true. And he was like, That's why you just listen. You let people talk. Just listen. You know, take all that knowledge in. Hear what they're saying. You don't, you know, not to say that, yes, they did lie or they are lying. No, but from hearing everything and just taking it all in, it's, you know, it's a learning process. Like I said a little while ago, knowledge is key. So that would be the best advice that I was given. And I was given a lot of advice from this gentleman, a lot of knowledge. But one of the most important things, I'll never forget that, because like I said, you know, I watched him close deals for himself. He's closed deals for me. Anything regarding business, real estate, or, you know, anything else. And he's proved that fact to me. You know, shut up and listen. Even though I talk a lot, people tell me I talk a lot.
That's okay. This has been a great interview. I've loved all the wisdom you're dropping here, man. I'm a fan. I love it.
But so yeah, even though I can't talk a lot, I can listen too. You know, and you learn a lot from listening.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You learn from listening, not from talking. I love it. That's awesome. This has been great, Ronny. Thank you very much for your time today. And any parting wisdom or anything that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, the fact that getting back to, I think I've talked so much, I got off topic a couple of times. Getting back to the junk car business and the junk car industry. Yes, it can be very lucrative. It can be a plus. You know, it can be rough at times. What my recommendation is just to tackle it slow, tackle it, you know, carefully, and you know, do research, but, you know, utilize your head, think first, plan things out, and you know, take advice from people who have either are still doing it currently, or, you know, have done it successfully. You know, awesome. We have acquired a lot from you, Ed, from Geeks Clicks, and you know, that's been very profitable for us. Back in the day, we used to get a lot of our leads from the newspaper, and that's when social media and the internet wasn't what it is today. So, you know, a lot has evolved, you know, in the years to come. So, you know, now, even though we're still looking for more leads and more business, you know, which is something else we'll talk on later. But it is very profitable at the current time. And would I recommend to get involved? Yes, definitely. You know, it's different avenues that you can take, different ways to go about it. You know, some people say, would you recommend someone going in full blown with a tow truck, or would you recommend, you know, truck and a trailer? If you're starting off small and financial is an issue as well, I recommend truck and a trailer. You know, start that route, see where it goes for you, see how it works out, and then go from there. You know, I think 80% of people doing the junk cars started out that way. And some of them decide to stay that route. You know, me, myself, you know, if I was going to go strictly junk car, all honesty, if I was going to maintain just strictly junk car end of it, yes, I would stay. Honestly, I would stay truck and trailer, you know, nice trailer. I would get like a nice tilt trailer that, you know, utilize any size vehicle. But the fact that we're going to, you know, not be doing just junk cars, we're going to be doing, you know, regular tows, some motor club tows, you know, then it's a little bit different. But many people do it differently, and it also matters of, you know, your state, the requirements. You know, what does insurance look like in your state? You know, we're in New Jersey, nothing to brag about. So everything's high out here in New Jersey, especially the cost of living and the cost of insurance. So since back then, 2007, 2008 to today, 2022, insurance quotes have tripled, and that's no exaggerations. They've tripled. So recommendations for someone in New Jersey wanting to do this? Yeah, think about truck and a trailer.
Got it. Very cool. All right, Ronny, thank you very much for your time today. Have a great day.
All right, thanks a lot, Ed.
Thank you.
Take care.